during David Moyes' reign as West Ham manager, especially towards the latter stages of it, there were times where it felt like things were not good, and that he was coming towards the end of his time at the club. There have been a few heavy defeats, especially last season, and also the season before last. We were in a scrap to stay up for most of the season, although of course we won the Conference League. It kind of masked what was happening in the Premier League, which we were really struggling. But it's strange because when you look back at those times, although yes, anger, frustration, so I've got videos on here you can go back and have a look at. I'm certainly not going to do that, but to go back to remind myself of those times. But where you'd be sort of calling for the manager and say, look, this is feel like the change could be needed. We could be going down here, etc., etc. But that would usually be following a result quite soon after. So emotions are high, and that you'd feel anger would be at the surface, and the frustration would be there, and then hence why you'd be, or certainly myself would be, calling for a change. At times, I'm not saying it was every time we lost a game, but there were moments. And then I found that once the dust had settled down, you had a night's sleep on it, or maybe a couple of nights' sleep on it, and you stand back from the situation, there were things that you could pull out that would give you reason for forms of optimism. So you could, for instance, say, yes, okay, that was a heavy defeat. However, we tend to respond to a heavy defeat. We tend to respond with a pretty decent performance. We'll grind out a result. And then you could point to things like our home form, things like that. There'd be things you could lean on and go, or even still, one of the big ones I could lean on was saying, well, we've been here before, though, with Moyes. We've actually been here and we've got out of it. So it always gives you this sort of sense that, yes, things aren't great, but it's not all doom and gloom. It might not be as bad as it first seems on the surface. With Julen Lopetegui, however, because of his past in football, I'm talking about Wolves, where there wasn't really much to say positive, really. Let's be honest. Okay, got them out of a relegation scrap, I suppose. Maybe that's about it. But the football, there was nothing. All I'm saying is that you can't look at his time in the Premier League and go, "Oh, there's reason for optimism," and you certainly can't lean on his time at West Ham for any optimism. I can't look at, go, "Oh, well, he won the Europa League with Sevilla." That can't fill me with optimism. It was a different league, a different time. It's too long ago to point to. I just feel with him, with Lopetegui, there is just no reason for optimism. So even despite the fact that we lost to Nottingham Forest now quite a few days ago, and the dust has certainly settled on that, I'm still not feeling any better about the manager. If anything, the more now I'm reading about it and analysing it further, and I'm certainly not. I don't want to be watching that game over again now. I've certainly done it enough, but when you sort of absorb more information about what's going on at West Ham, if anything, the frustrations levels are growing. Do you know what I mean? It feels like inevitable to me that Lopetegui is not going to survive in the post at West Ham. I don't think he's got long. I really don't. In fact, the news that we are getting left, right and centre, isn't it, that the Everton game could possibly be his last game. If West Ham don't produce a good performance, if West Ham get a hammer in against Everton, I do not see him surviving. I really don't, considering the fact that Everton are just struggling as well. Sean Dyche, of course, is under massive pressure. I mean, there's a club that just seems to be going from one relegation battle to the next, season after season. And if they are rocking up to London Stadium and turning West Ham over, then I do not see how we can survive, because we've had 6 months now of this guy, and it's just been dire, hasn't it? Let's be honest, there's just been absolutely zero reason for optimism at West Ham since his arrival. I mean, you've only got to look at our pre-season time. It was just, even then, I remember doing the reporting on those games and thinking and saying, that it's only pre-season though. I'm not going to get too caught up in this, but even then thinking, God, we're half looking poor. We weren't looking good. I think the only result we got in pre-season was 1-0 win over Dagenham and Redbridge. It was really dire. His whole time at the club has been terrible. Just no reason for any optimism, and I don't see it changing. I do not see anything changing. I do feel like we are going to be getting a new head coach at some stage soon. Whether it be before Christmas, I would like to think it will. I'd like the club to be decisive and take action. I feel like that's really needed. Regardless of the time, the timescale on it, really, it just feels like it's going to be soon. Do you know what I mean? I don't see him being at the helm this time. You know, they're certainly not next year. He will not see the season out, and I'm sure of that. I just really hope the club are decisive. I hope the club are making plans. And the reason that for this video really is to discuss the plans, because it is starting to emerge now that there are certain candidates that are looking more likely than others that West Ham will approach. Now, this comes from betting.com, actually. They've provided an update on the latest odds, and I want to discuss them with you. And it's quite interesting, actually, some of these names. And whether they're good or not, it's very, very hard to say. So, number one on the list, the favourite for the job at present is Graham Potter at 7-4. I mean, that's strong odds actually that he is going to be the next in line, which is interesting considering that he's been linked with West Ham before, and I feel that there was doubts for David Sullivan. I mean, the fact that David Sullivan still, I'd hate the fact he's got an opinion and he gets a say in this, and of course he will again. But the guy is responsible for Lopetegui, as far as I'm concerned. But he said about Potter being the fact that he wasn't confident in him because he felt that he wasn't really overly responsible for what happened at Brighton. He was more of a head coach role. But look, could that suit us? Possibly so. I mean, I'm at that point now because of Lopetegui, to be honest, where I hate saying anyone but him, but it's almost because it's been so bad. It's like that. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, it can't be worse than what we've got. So I'm almost looking at every name going, okay. Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. But Graham Potter, 7-4 favourite to take over at West Ham should we get rid of Lopetegui, as I say, which I feel like it's inevitable anyway. So that would be an interesting one. Of course, he struggled, didn't he, at Chelsea? I didn't feel like he given the time there at all. They really did pull the trigger quickly. He did struggle. So he comes with a bit of baggage there, I feel. But as I say, it's because of the situation we're in and what we're witnessing in terms of these performances and this shocking management in terms of tactics, lineups, man management, you name it, everything's poor. You kind of look at every name, don't you, and feel like, well, okay, he will probably do a better job. Now, Terzic is the one as well that's now second for West Ham, which would be interesting. Eden Terzic is 7-4 as well. Actually, he's joint then. He's joint in line with Graham Potter. So they're the two sort of front runners at the moment. Terzic, of course, was at West Ham before. I think that gives him a fair amount of edge. We talked about him in a previous video. I did actually feel, I know a lot of people said, well, he's too similar to Moyes, too defensive. I do understand that. But you know what? Because of his age and connection with the club, and the way that things are at the moment, it might not be a bad appointment. It might not be a bad appointment to have someone just to come in and shore things up and make us tough to beat. I know it's not what people are thinking, were saying, and wanting this sort of free-flowing, exciting football. I do get, don't get me wrong, I'm fully on the side of that. But the way things have been so far this season, I just feel like we're in such dire need of organisation and getting these players drilled and understanding how to control games a bit better. It might not be a bad appointment for us, and it seems the easier one. I'd be surprised if that's not someone we look at seriously, to be honest. Terzic, as I say, Graham Potter's difficult at the moment to see because of the previous comments from Sullivan. Gareth Southgate, of course. I mean, that name had to come into it. He's 2-1 to replace Lopetegui. I mean, flipping hell, can you imagine that one? Gareth Southgate, God Almighty. I mean, I don't see it happening either way. I don't think he would be. I don't think he'd be looking at this West Ham job at the moment, thinking this is the one for me. With what's going on, it just seems a circus, doesn't it? Is he going to be something? He go from England to working with Sullivan? I don't see it. I don't, and also I just don't feel that he would be given that support. I don't think he would have that connection. I just think it doesn't feel like a right fit for me. It really doesn't. I can't get behind that one at the moment as anyone to be excited about. I really can't. So no, but he is on the list. He's third. Well, he's second favourite. Joint first, as I say, is Potter and Terzic. Then we go on to Eric Ten Hag. Good old Ten Hag. Of course, we got we placed the final nail in his coffin at Manchester United. He's now at work. 9-4 to be West Ham's next manager. I don't like the guy. We never did. I didn't like when he came off the plane at Manchester. He spoke to the media. I thought he was just really rude, to be honest with the media. They were waiting for him. He sort of got into the car and no comments, slammed the door and walked off. And I didn't like it. I don't immediately, like first impressions matter. once he just did it for me. When I saw that, I thought, no, there's something about this guy I really don't like. I've never changed my tune regarding him. So yeah, I certainly haven't got no connection to thinking that he would be a decent fit for West Ham at all. Ten Hag. And then we've got a few others. We've got Brendan Rodgers, 72. And we've got a few other names here. We've got Rafa Benitez, 61. How can Rafa Benitez be linked with West Ham again? I mean, that's got to be lazy. I mean, surely to God, we'd never consider that. Jose Mourinho, 8-1. I mean, he's the one that I don't see it ever happening. But do you know what? It would be something, wouldn't it? Can you imagine Mourinho coming in at West Ham? I mean, bloody hell, it would be unbelievable to see him make his way to West Ham. It really would be something. So yeah, interesting. Other ones there are Michael Carrick at 10-1. I mean, obviously, young manager, Middlesbrough. I've always kind of been quite impressed with his work. Actually, I think he's played some good football. I just don't see it happening. I don't see. This is the thing that worries me with West Ham. Is that I don't trust what the club are going to do. I don't trust them because they've had enough opportunity. They had so much time to get this Lopetegui appointment right. So much time. They knew David Moyes was leaving. You know what I mean? For quite good. They had a good period of months to get this sorted out. And this is what we've ended up with. An absolute shout. So I've got no confidence. And Mark Noble, 18-1. Now, Mark Noble, for me, would come in as sort of like a temporary interim boss anyway, if need be. Well, it makes perfect sense. I don't know. I think the players will respond to him well. I really do. I think if you have Mark Noble in for a few months, he'd do a good job. All right, maybe not be a long term. It's certainly something he would probably be looking at doing. I know he wants more of a backroom kind of role, as we know, in terms of like director of football, which again we'll talk about in another video as well. I see him going in as that. In fact, we're going to talk about in a video soon. But yeah, I think it's a temporary role. He'd be good. So yeah, this is what we're looking at the moment then. So as I say, just to recap, it's going to be Graham Potter, the favourite for 74. He's lit with Terzic. Gareth Southgate's second in line there. And then you're looking at Ten Hag and then a few other managers. Brendan Rodgers is in there, 72, as I say. So it's interesting. I'd like to know your thoughts, actually, if there's managers in mind. Will Still, for me, is always one I've always had my eye on. I just love the fact he's a West Ham fan. He's doing so well. Young guy. I've seen videos of him in training with what is it, Ren? I think it was that. And he just looks, a great connection with the players. And just, I've been really impressed with him overall. I don't know. I don't believe the club would take a gamble on him. We know West Ham. We know how it goes. I just don't see it. But that's what I feel we need, just someone exciting, someone a bit different, fresh, young, up and coming, hungry. Don't want these has-beens anymore. Do you know what I mean? Don't want these managers that are on their way out of the game. We want managers that are up and coming and got something to prove. Got that desire and that hunger and a fire in their belly to do well. Because this is the weird thing with Lopetegui. We've heard all this with him, that he was desperate for this job and he was looking at the West Ham job. He was studying the club for some time. But you just don't see it, do you? You don't feel that when you see him. I don't bloody see it when he talks. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Yeah. Anyway, I thought I want to share that with you. I've got another video coming up. As I say, I'm going to talk about the situation with Tim Steidson. That's quite an interesting one. We're going to do an update as well this week with ex-WH employee. So we've got a few things coming up. And of course, then the big preview coming up for the Chelsea, for the Everton game, on the weekend, which is just an absolute monster of a game. It's a weird one to be going into with what's happening at the moment. But I mean, Jesus Christ, if West Ham can't raise their game and beat someone like Everton who are struggling badly, then it's surely got to be curtains, isn't it, for Lopetegui?